It wasn't in the highlights, it wasn't on the front page, but Lewis Hamilton heard it loud and clear. Right after the British Grand Prix, while the cameras followed Nico Hülkenberg's shocking podium for Sauber, Fred Vasseur sat in front of the media and quietly dropped a bomb. Even if we win all the races left, we might still not be champions. No emotion, no fight, just surrender, dressed up as realism. For most, it sounded like a harmless assessment, but for Hamilton, it was a betrayal. He didn't leave Mercedes to join a team that gives up in July. He came to Ferrari to make history, not excuses. And right there in the shadows of Silverstone, a silent war began, because moments later Hamilton responded, not with anger, not with blame, but with a sentence that sounded technical and was anything but. Some elements of this car cannot go into next year. That wasn't a complaint, that was a warning, and it wasn't the only one, because what Hamilton said over the radio minutes earlier never made it to air, and it changes everything. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't panicked. It came mid-corner, just after Hamilton lost traction exiting turn 13. This rear is not normal. I told you yesterday, it's not reacting the same. The team responded with silence. No adjustment, no counter-argument, nothing. And that silence? It spoke volumes, because Hamilton wasn't just commenting on instability, he was confirming a suspicion that between Friday and Sunday something had shifted, not in setup, in trust. He had warned them after FP2, he had pushed for a rear suspension change, it was denied, and now, in the middle of the British Grand Prix, he was forced to drive around the same flaw that cost him in Austria. This radio message wasn't just about oversteer, it was about authority. Who decides what gets fixed? And whose feedback gets sidelined, and Hamilton wasn't done. That moment was the turning point. It's when he stopped driving with the car and started driving against it. But to understand why Ferrari ignored that warning, we need to talk about one man, the engineer whose silence betrayed more than just strategy. Every great driver has a voice in their ear they trust blindly. For Hamilton, it used to be Peter Bonington, Bono. But in Ferrari, that voice is still missing, or worse, it's being muted. At Silverstone, all eyes were on the setup changes, but in the garage, something deeper was unraveling. Riccardo Adami, assigned to Hamilton after years with Vettel and Sainz, was unusually passive. No strategic pushbacks, no mid-race suggestions, no emotional presence. And for a driver like Lewis, who thrives on two-way trust, that absence was louder than any engine. Insiders noticed it. During the post-race debrief, Hamilton spent more time talking directly to Vasseur's technical delegate than to his own race engineer. It wasn't a snub, it was a shift, a deliberate redirection of communication, bypassing the system. Hamilton isn't just questioning the car, he's questioning who he's allowed to trust inside Ferrari. And if Adami can't evolve into the role Hamilton needs, someone else will take that seat. But who? The answer may already be working inside Maranello, hidden in plain sight, and ready to lead a quiet coup. While the media dissected tire strategies and aero packages, Hamilton was busy building something else entirely, a new chain of command. Sources inside Maranello revealed something subtle but telling. Lewis has begun spending extended time in the simulator division, not with Adami, but with a lesser-known performance engineer, Matteo Tognanelli. Officially, Tognanelli heads trackside performance. Unofficially, he's becoming Hamilton's back channel to Ferrari's design room, because while Adami delivers what's already decided, Tognanelli questions what should be. During the Austrian weekend, it was Tognanelli who first backed Hamilton's feedback on rear instability and suggested a suspension geometry revision the team initially shelved. Now, in Silverstone's aftermath, that same concept has suddenly reappeared in Ferrari's plans for Spa. Coincidence? Hardly. This isn't just engineering, it's politics. It's Hamilton slowly reshaping the inner circle around him, not with drama, but with data. And in a team that still whispers in Italian corridors before making bold changes, Lewis is doing something dangerous. He's taking the initiative. But the question is, will Vasseur see this as leadership or insubordination? Publicly, Fred Vasseur brushed it off. We're still aligned, we know what's at stake. But those who witnessed the post-race briefing in Silverstone saw a very different man. Not a leader in control, but a boss watching the command slip from his hands. When Hamilton challenged the car's philosophy in front of senior engineers, Vasseur didn't interrupt. He didn't back Adami. He didn't defend the current direction. He paused. And in Ferrari, silence isn't neutral, it's political. It was the first time Lewis openly overstepped the established hierarchy. And instead of being reined in, he was met with nods, not from the drivers, from the tech staff. Because here's the part no one's talking about. Ferrari's engineering core is fractured. Some still follow the 2025 blueprint, Others, increasingly, are gravitating toward Hamilton's vision 46. Vasseur's pause wasn't indecision, it was hesitation in the face of a shift he no longer fully controls. And that shift, it's turning Ferrari into something it hasn't been in over a decade, a team shaped around one driver's will. But at what cost? The next move would prove just how far Hamilton is willing to push. Monday morning, post-Silverstone. While the paddock packed and flew to Hungary, Lewis Hamilton stayed behind in Maranello, not for recovery, not for press, for confrontation. According to internal sources, Hamilton requested a closed-door technical session. No PR, no handlers, no science, just the design leads for the SF26. What he said inside wasn't broadcast, but one line, leaked by someone in the room, said everything. This car doesn't need evolution, it needs a reset. That's not a suggestion, that's revolution. He reportedly brought comparative ride height and yaw data from Austria and Silverstone, showing a consistent imbalance in transient grip under DRS activation. And while most drivers defer to the system, Hamilton turned that data into a demand. Build a car that forgives the driver, not one that punishes perfection. It landed like thunder, not because of its tone, but because it broke a taboo. No one had questioned the car's DNA this directly since Alonso, but unlike Alonso, Hamilton isn't threatening to leave, he's threatening to take over. And one engineer after that meeting quietly told a colleague, "I think we're about to find out who really runs Ferrari." Heading into the Hungarian GP, Ferrari made a subtle but telling adjustment, a rear suspension tweak, officially described as a minor rebalancing for tire preservation. But behind the paddock walls, the truth was far more revealing. It was the very geometry Hamilton requested weeks ago in Spielberg, the same one vetoed by Adami and shelved by management. Now, suddenly, it was approved. Quietly, temporarily. Why temporary? Because Ferrari doesn't want to admit it's caving to one man's vision mid-season. But Hamilton isn't waiting for permission. Telemetry from FP1 showed something striking: improved rear stability on corner exit, sharper throttle response, and a curious radio from Hamilton to the pit wall. This is the direction, log it. No celebration, just confirmation. This wasn't just about performance, it was about precedent. For the first time since joining Ferrari, Hamilton changed the car, not by suggestion, but by command. And though Vasseur insisted to the media it was just a test, the engineers know better. The test wasn't the setup, the test was how far Hamilton could push, before someone pushes back. And at Ferrari, that pushback often comes with consequences. By Hungary's end, the pattern was undeniable. The temporary setup stayed for qualifying, it stayed for the race, and it delivered. Hamilton didn't win, but he outpaced Leclerc in clean air, controlled degradation, and executed a sharper race strategy without last-minute overrides. But what mattered most wasn't on the stopwatch, it was in the post-race body language. Hamilton walked straight past Adami, straight to Tognanelli. They reviewed the data together, without words, just nods. A silent shift of allegiance confirmed in public. Leclerc, meanwhile, stayed with the traditional engineering group. Still loyal to the system, Hamilton is slowly bypassing. And Vasseur, caught between two realities. One, where Ferrari plays it safe and finishes second again. Another, where Hamilton rips up the old playbook and rebuilds the team in his image. Unpredictable, risky, but finally worthy of glory. This isn't about 2025 anymore. It's about power, identity, control. Because when Hamilton said, "This car cannot carry its past into the future," he wasn't just talking about suspension, he was talking about Ferrari itself. And now, the red team stands at a crossroads it can no longer avoid.